نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربي زدني علما اللهم فقهنا في الدين. Inshallah, today we will start our lesson from ayat number 101, Surah anNisa. This ayat talks about the Qasr salah, which means to make it shorter while traveling. Let's study the Arabic and the translation, and then we'll go into the details. Wa and ida, whenever. Darabtum, dad raba, which means to travel or walk. Fil ardi, in the earth. Whenever you're traveling in the earth, then what should you do? Fa, then, laysa, not, alaykum, upon you, junahun, any sin, an, that, taqsuru, that you, qaf, swadra, meaning shorten, minas salati, your prayer. So whenever you travel through the land, it is permissible for you to shorten the prayer. There is no sin for you to shorten the prayer in if khiftum, especially if you are on that yaftinakum. Fatanun, meaning if there is any kind of fitna, any kind of attack, or any kind of fear, any kind of danger, allazina, from those kafaru, by the kafir, by the disbelievers. So if there is, especially if there is any fear of attack by the disbelievers. Inna, indeed, al-kafirina, the kafir, the disbelievers, kanu, they are, lakum, for you, aduwan mubina. Adu means enemies and mubina, clear, openly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in this ayat that when you travel throughout the land, there is no blame upon you for shortening your prayer. And especially if you are afraid that those who are the disbelievers may distract you, may attack you, you might be in danger from them. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that indeed that the disbelievers are very clear enemies of yours. So what is happening in this ayat is, from this verse, Allah establishes the concession of shortening the prayers, like the 4 rakats of prayers. Most of us are familiar with the Qasr prayers. It's called Qasr, meaning, which means shorten or making it smaller. This is when a Muslim is traveling. You can see the wording, like there is no sin upon you or no blame upon you. It just shows that shortening is allowed, or it is a legislated allowance. It's not a sin. And the early context means like the fear of attack, but Prophet ﷺ clarified from many ahadith that this ruling applies even when there is no fear. So basically it highlights Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy in making our worship easier during any kind of hardship. And I will repeat that it is not just for the time of danger, because you might find some opinions from the scholars that it is only when there is a fear from the enemy. But this is for all kinds of travel, even the easy travel these days. Also, sometimes people don't want to take qasr, they don't want to take this concession for shortening the salah. But from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are told that we should accept it. It is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not like your choice. It is sunnah muakkada. You are highly recommended to take it. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when asked by Umar radhiyallahu anhu, he mentioned that this is a sadaqah from Allah. This is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you should take it. And he actually told people not to pray the entire complete prayer. There are also ahadiths where Prophet ﷺ told his companions not to pray the whole salah while you're traveling. And there are many ahadiths in which the Sahaba have mentioned that whenever they were traveling with Rasulullah ﷺ, he always did Qasr prayer. So it is valid even in safety, even in easy kind of travels, because sometimes we think that, in those times, during those times, people had to like travel in deserts or in harsh climates or harsh conditions. And these days we are like going in airplanes and everything. It is understood now that this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's gift and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's kind of order that we should always do Qasr salah when we are traveling. Now there are two questions about it. One is just to explain to you how many rakats are supposed to be done. There are two types of Qasr. One is to do like lesser rakats, which means that Fajr stays two only, Zuhr prayers instead of four it becomes two, Asr from four it becomes two, and Maghrib stays three, and Aisha becomes two from four. Yeah. And the other type is when we are allowed to combine Zuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha. So Zohar and Asr, even like when you are not traveling, but there is any kind of difficulty where you think that there is a chance that I'm going to miss my Asr prayer, then you are allowed to combine it with Zohar. Or if you have missed your Zohar prayer, you are allowed to combine with Asr prayer. So, for example, there's this flight and you start the flight before the Zohar time has started, and you are going to reach your destination at Asr time, then you can do Asr and Zohar together. Or if you're leaving for your flight, your airport at Zohar time, and you suspect that you'll reach your destination around Maghrib time, so you can do Zohar and Asr both together. The same goes for Maghrib and Isha. You can do Maghrib Isha both at the same time. And of course, this depends on what your condition is, where you are going, what your travel is, all this. But many scholars agree that you can also do it if there is a need to do this if you're in the same city. And for shortening the lesser rakats, just as I said, 2, 2, 2, 3, and 2, how many miles away you have to be there, these are different. There's a difference in opinion in these scholarly advices. So it just depends on how many miles you should have traveled. The other thing to see over here is that besides the Qasr prayer, this ayat also mentions the salat for the fear, the time of danger. So that also in the next ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains the whole process, how to do it. But again, just to give you a heads up that there are many types of prayers for the time of danger. One could be when the people are running, like they are on the horse and they are going towards the battleground, and they cannot be late, otherwise the enemy will attack. Or if they are already there and then they know that the enemy is near and they might attack if all of us are going to be in prayers. And there could be different kinds of situations. So to give you an idea, the next ayat explains one of the ways in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also explained further to the companions, where half the army will follow. They will definitely do the Qasr prayer, meaning instead of four, they would do two. But what will happen is that the Imam, the leader, will do both the rakats. But the people, the army, the soldiers, they will be divided in two parts. Half of them will stand guard, and half of them will pray one rakat, and then they will get up and become the guards, and the other half will come and follow the Imam for the next rakat. So this is how the leader, the Imam, will do both the rakats, but the soldiers, the army, they're allowed to do one rakat. This is a very short version of travel plus the danger. And there is also opinions where the Imam will do four, but the soldiers will do two rakats. So it again depends on what the condition is. Let's read the Arabic for this ayat. So it's a little long. That's why I already explained to you what is going to be happening in this ayah. That's going to help you understand the words and the sequence of words better, inshallah. Let's read wa iza and when kunta, you are fihim, among them. Fa aqamta, and you establish. So it is qaf wa mim is the root, and fihim is also made of two words, fi, in, him, them, among them. Fa aqamta, and you establish lahum, for them, as-salata, the prayer. Then what should you do? Faltaqum, then let stand, ta'ifatun, a group, tawafa. So this is what I'm saying, that 50% of the soldiers will be, like there will be two groups among the army, and one group will stand, minhum, from them, ma'aka, with you. Wal ya'khuzu, and let them take. So wal and should take. Yakhudhu means akhaz hamza khazal is the root, and they should take aslihatuhum, meaning their weapons. Okay, so aslah means weapons, hum their weapons. Fa'iza, then when, sajadu, they have prostrated. Fal yakunu, so fal and wal means they should and then they should. So fal yakunu, then let them be, min waraikum, behind you. Wara means behind, min from there. Wal ta'ti, and let come, ta'ifatun, the group, ukhra, another one. So the other group should come. Lam yusillu, who have not prayed yet. Then what should they do? Fal yusallu, then they let them pray. Salat, then they should pray. Ma'aka, with you. So first group has prayed, now they are going to guard them, and the second group comes. Wal ya'khuzu, and let them take jazrahum, their precaution. So now the other one is handling the precaution, meaning the weapons and guarding the borderline wherever they are supposed to be standing. Wa, and aslihatahum, and their weapon. Wadda, they wish, and who are the ones who are wishing now? The disbelievers. So wadda, they really want. Who want? Allazina kafaru, those who disbelieve. Law, if only. Taghfaluna, meaning ghafal, you would neglect. So this is what they really want, that all the Muslims go into the prayer, they go into their salat, so they will be focused in their salat, and then the kafir, the disbelievers, they want that you become ghafil, you neglect, from aslihatikum, your your weapons. So they want you to be neglect your weapons. Wa amtiatikum, and your belongings. Then what should they do if you are neglecting those? Fayamiluna, so they would attack alaykum, you, mailatan wahidatan, in a single sudden assault. So they just want that if they get one try, one blow, if you're all in the prayer together. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also telling Muslims the logic of doing half and half, that the first half, one half does it salah, and then they are guarding, because the disbelievers are really waiting. They know how you pray, and you are focused, and you have this khushu, and you're completely inside of your salah once you start it. So they are really wanting that they get one chance and they will completely wipe you. Wala junaha, and there is no junah, no sin, no blame, alaykum, upon you, in, if kana, is, bikum, upon you, adan, harm, mim matarin, from rain, aw kuntum, if you are, marda, if you're ill, and that tada'u aslihatakum, that you lay down your weapons. So if you're not feeling well, or if there is too much rain, it's pouring, you're not able to handle all this, then it is okay. It's not like it's a sin that you leave your belongings or you leave your weapons for a little time. Wa khuzu, and take hidrakum. Hazar means precaution. Inna allaha, indeed Allah, a'adda, ain dal dal, meaning has prepared, lil kafirina, for the disbelievers, azabam muhina, there is an azab, a punishment, very humiliating. Muhin comes from the word tohin, also comes from there, which means to humiliate. Okay, so this is like the translation of the ayat. I already told you how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided the Muslims, that in these times where you fear that their enemies are going to attack, you can do one half and then the second half. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that it is not like it's a fard, and you will be you're not allowed to put down your aslah, your weapons, for even a few seconds, for a few minutes, or when you need to like take a break. It is perfectly fine, because things become heavy. These things were not easy to handle, hold, take care of the rain, eat, drink water. If you are not feeling well, if you can't handle so much weight, so it is not like it's a fard, and you are not supposed to leave your weapons at all. It is okay if you need to do that. Now let's do ayat number 103, inshallah. So two things that we see from this ayat is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed the it is established that the prayers cannot be abandoned. We have to pray even in times of fear, in such a difficult moment. Also, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the instructions of how to make salah, then this shows the importance of salah. Also, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed the fear prayer in many different ways, so they are all permissible. And one more thing that we see, there's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which again supports the principle that prayer remains, it is a must, even in hardship, that pray standing if you cannot, then sitting if you cannot, then on your side. And now ayat number 103, which is a very important ayat. Let's do the translation and then we'll go into detail, because this is the foundational ayat related to the 5 prayers and the timings, and how a Muslim's heart is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times, and how salat has to be done on timings. So the ayat is فَإِذَا, then when, قَضَيْتُمْ, you have finished. Qada is something that is done. As-salata, the salat. When you're done with the prayers, when you finish the prayer, fadhkuru, then remember Allah. Allah. How should you remember Allah? Qayaman wa qu'udan wa ala junubikum. What are the 3 positions that Allah has mentioned? Standing. Qayam means standing. Qu'udan, sitting. Ala junubikum, meaning on your sides, meaning even lying down. Fa'iza, and then when, atmanantum, you are secure, you are at ease. The word itminan also comes. Twam mim nun taban means you are secure and you are at peace. Then what should you do? For aqimus salata. Aqimu, establish. As-salata, the prayer. Meaning now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us that you have to do it on time and you have to do it properly when you are in itminan. It's not your choice when to do it and how small you want to do it. Inna, indeed, as-salata, the prayer, kanat, has been, alal mu'minina, upon the mu'minin, upon the believers, kitaban, a prescribed obligation. It's written, kitaban. And what is it? What written about it? Mawqutan, at fixed time. Waqaf ta, waqat, waqt. It is written for very specific timings. You cannot just leave it. So we see from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hadith also, Rasulullah mentioned that prayer is at its proper time. So whenever anything is supposed to be done. So when asked which deed is most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that prayer at its proper time. Another hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not delay the prayer beyond its time except in battle. So as we already studied, in battle things can be delayed or it can be shortened, like to a very small, like even 1 rakat is okay, but it has to be done on time in normal days. And whoever, now about the first part of this ayat, where we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that when you are in itminan, then you have to do the zikr, you have to remember Allah in all positions. So there's the hadith that supports that, where Prophet ﷺ mentions whoever remembers Allah frequently, Allah will remember him. Again, we are also given the askar for waking up, for lying down. So this is where all the other zikr or remembrance of Allah comes into play, that we are from the sunnah of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we see that there is a dua, a supplication, which we have to say when we wake up, when we are about to sleep, before we eat, after we eat, before we leave the house, after we leave the house. So this is all that is applied, where we see the part of the ayat which mentions that remember Allah at all times. So of course during the battle or during the time of fear also we're supposed to remember, but the thing is that sometimes when we are relaxed we forget the remembrance of Allah. We are too much into watching TV, unwinding, relaxing, and cooking food, cleaning house. Sometimes people are used to playing music in the time of relaxation. So this is a reminder for all of us that this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us special instructions that we are supposed to remember Allah at all times. And anything that we see that the zikr is not limited to just the prayer, that we say that I pray 5 times so I'm good. This ayat is really important because it mentions that salat is for timings. So we have to keep in mind the timings. We cannot just choose our time to do all 5 prayers. And again, zikr continues even after prayer, inshallah. Then let's study ayat number 104, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds the Muslims to stay motivated and not to give up, not to get frustrated with the battle situation. So, wala, and do not, tahinu, wahan, waw hanun means to weaken, fi, ibtigha'il qawmi, ibtigha meaning to pursue, to seek, al qawmi, the people, meaning the enemy. Do not weaken in pursuing the enemy. In if takunu, you are, ta'lamuna, yani if you are suffering, hamza lam mim, alam means pain. If you are feeling pain, فَإِنَّهُمْ, then indeed they, يَعْلَمُونَ, they are also suffering. They also suffer. Alam, they are also in pain. Kama, just like ta'lamun, just as you suffer. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds Muslims that they are also suffering. They are also going through the pain. Wa and tarjuna, rajim wow, meaning hope. So while you are hopeful, minallahi, from Allah, mala, not them, yarjun, they are not hopeful. So basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that at least in your pain, in your difficulties, at least you are hopeful from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you'll get the reward. But look at them, they are in pain, they are also suffering. They do not even have that hope for akhirah. They do not even have that hope from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they will be rewarded for all this. So their pain is so going to waste. It's all in vain. At least you're getting paid off at the end of the day. Wakana, and is Allah, Allah aliman, is all knowing. He has all the ilm. Hakiman, he's all wise. He has the wisdom. Ha, kaf, mim. So overall, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds a Muslim not to get weak in pursuing the enemy. If you are suffering, they are suffering just as you are suffering. But your hope from Allah is that they cannot even expect that kind of hope. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alim and hakim. So this is to tell them not to lose courage. Pain is shared, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge and wisdom, it's on top of it. Allah knows what you're going through. Allah knows how much you've suffered. Allah knows how much you've sacrificed. And we see that not to become weak means that we should not become lazy or afraid or discouraged or demotivated. And the hope from Allah means that at least the Muslim's pain is tied to reward, forgiveness, paradise. But the non-Muslims, their pain is, it has no eternal benefit at all. So we should not get exhausted. Even like when we are not fighting against any enemy, we should remember that whatever effort we do, we should stay steadfast. Any kind of hardship that comes in our way, it should not stop us from keep going. We should remember the hope, the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the promise of Jannah. And it gives us strength when we keep thinking about how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us and how much it's going to elevate our levels in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That gives us more courage. So that's why reading Quran and reminding ourselves of the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is so important. It does not just give us rewards for reading, but it also gives motivation to us. It reminds us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom, because sometimes we start questioning ourselves, why is this happening? Okay, a hadith to again motivate us. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned how wonderful is the affair of the believer. All of his affair is good. If he's afflicted with hardship, he's patient, and that is good for him. And the same way, when he has a good time and then he is showing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then also he gets rewarded for that as well. Another hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu is that no fatigue, nor illness, nor sorrow, nor sadness, nor hurt, nor distress befalls a Muslim, even if it were the prick he received from a thorn, except that Allah expiates some of his sins for that. So this shows us how beautiful our religion is, that whatever we do, if our niyyah, if our intention is very pure, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us rewards for bearing that.